Patrick, I'm pleased to have you back in action this week. We've got a lot to discuss. More fallout from the Epstein files. You've been following this from the very beginning. How you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Jason? Thanks for having me back.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, a lot of fallout, but still no arrests for some reason. So,
Well,
um,
not in the U.S., but of course everybody is talking about this arrest of Prince Andrew. I don't know. I mean, is this the first time somebody royal has been arrested?
from what I was reading, it's the first time in like 370 years or something. I think King Charles the First was the first one to be arrested like 400 years ago. Um, and yeah, it's just I have my theories. I don't think that we are going to see any arrests here. Um, I mean, I'm glad to see Prince Andrew. I guess I can't call him Prince anymore, huh? Because he got stripped of his
Right.
royal title.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just glad to see at least one arrest. Um, but I don't think we're going to see that here, unfortunately. I have this working theory. Did a lot of meditating on this the other day. I think that no matter how heinous or atrocious anything is in the files, I think that this is the elite's way of saying, okay, yeah, this is everything we're doing. This is everything we have done. Um, Now do something. You know,
What do you mean do
they
something? For who to do something?
like the public. Like our outrage on social media
Oh, like what are you going to do,
is.
you mean? Right.
Yeah. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Yeah, we ate
Right.
kids, whatever. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, allegedly. But yeah, that's the way I see it. And I'm like, they wouldn't let us see these files if they, knew that they wouldn't be able to protect themselves or shield themselves from accountability. And that's what bothers me the most about the whole thing. I know we saw some former prime minister in Norway get arrested, and then he had like an assistant or something. She got arrested. So, I'm very black pilled on the whole thing, Jason, because I'm like, okay, we had, four presidential administrations, really, I mean, five. And then if you want to count Trump 1.0 and 2.0 as two completely different administrations, then, we had six administrations that knew about this. Um, and, what we've talked about, this goes all the way back to Iran-Contra. So, you have Reagan, you have Bush, you have Clinton, you have Bush 2, you have Biden, Trump, Obama. Um, so, I mean, I have all these, theories spinning around in my head as to what was Jeffrey Epstein? What was actually going on here? Why is nobody being held to account? Why does it seem like he's being protected? Why are they all of a sudden now releasing the files and letting us see all these atrocities? So yeah.
I think a lot of people share your opinion, Patrick, that this is like performative and that nothing will actually happen to Prince Andrew. They march him out and basically show him getting arrested, and everyone's like, ooh, and by the way, we should mention that this is an AI image that I've created. This is not an actual photo of Andrew being arrested. I always try to put things in the image to alert the viewer that it's not real. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein is not a giant face in the clouds, so this is kind of like a conceptual rendering. But yeah, I mean, you might be correct, Patrick. It's something that we're going to continue to discuss on our sponsor exclusive segment right after this. People can join us on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or of course on substack.com/@single company. Single is spelled with an X, and people can follow Patrick on his Substack page. Patrick is a Navy veteran and he's the founder of the Single Company. Patrick, you were the first guy to mention these very strange and still unexplained possible Navy connections for Jeffrey Epstein. You were out last week, but all this fallout happened from sloppy Steve Bannon hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. He's Navy intelligence. Jack
Yeah.
Posobiec is always on Bannon's show. He's Navy intelligence. What is going on with that?
I think that, it's all about like access, right? So I think the U.S. Navy has always been at the forefront of not just military technology, but technology as a whole, especially when it comes to defense capabilities. So, the F-35, the F-18, the F-16, um, the Osprey, all these advanced aircraft, they come from the Navy. Like the Navy is the one who uses them, puts out the contracts for bid, has, Northrop and Lockheed build them. Um, so the Navy has always been at the forefront of military technology. Um, and I think that that is the only reason why Jeffrey Epstein was so associated with, like naval intelligence or top secret facilities. Like we talked about, his West Palm Beach mansion was close to a SEAL delivery vehicle, like workshop, essentially. This top secret confidential laboratory where they would make all of this advanced technology for deploying SEALs off of submarines or even submarine technology. So I can't remember what episode we spoke about that, but he seemed to have himself um, in this radius of top secret military or government technology. Um, he was wearing the Navy SEAL uniform to the party in 2006, I believe. Um, we have
That was
Commander
Prince
March.
Andrew's daughter's birthday. You were the
Yep.
first person to talk about this, as far as I know. This is, well, we didn't know each other in 2019, but it's Business Insider reporting on that in 2019. Interesting, though, that Andrew got arrested. What are they going to do? They're just going to put him on trial and let him go? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, my what I the reason why I started like the investigations the way I do them is because I kind of already knew that unfortunately we weren't going to see arrests and or prosecutions for the crimes against children or trafficking women or all the illegal stuff that they're alleged to do. I kind of already had I started my investigations with the premise that okay, none of them are going to get arrested for the most heinous things that they did. So if we go through government contract data, if we go and we find a money trail, maybe we could get them that way. And the case that I always thought about every time I did, these contract investigations was, when they went after Al Capone. And Elliot Ness, he was a Treasury law enforcement official. And he's the one who took down Al Capone, and they got him for tax evasion and money laundering, and they got him on financial crimes. So I'm like, okay, well, if none of these crimes against children or women are ever going to be proven in a court of law, at least maybe we can get, the financial side and see some accountability whatsoever.
It's funny, there's so many movies and TV shows about Elliot Ness. I think,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I was aware that he was a real guy. I thought he was just a fictional guy from the Untouchables, but that was
Yep.
actually the name of his crew, huh?
Yep. Yeah.
Why were we able to do this in the past? I mean, I guess whoever are the criminals that are in charge figured we better not let something like this happen again.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Elliot Ness is a great example of people doing the right thing in law enforcement. I you have guys like Cash Patel and Dan Bongino. Cash went on Dan's podcast the other day, and they were just, I've never seen two guys do such a bad job giving themselves such arrogant self promotion. They were talking each other up, talking themselves up, saying, "Oh, we did such a great job, didn't we?" Like, okay, well, first of all, the job's not done. And two, I would venture to say at least 80% of the American people on either side of the political spectrum would argue that you guys haven't done a good job. You guys, your reign over the FBI and the DOJ has been an abject failure thus far. We haven't seen any Epstein prosecutions. We haven't seen any restitution for the victims of January 6th. We haven't seen the Clintons or any of these bad actors like John Bolton or John Brennan or Michael Hayden or the Army intelligence officer testified against Trump. We haven't seen any accountability for any of those things.
Vindman.
Vindman, Alexander Vindman, yes. And he's running for Congress, I believe, in
It's
Florida now.
unbelievable, isn't it? Well, his brother is in Congress. I think he might be running for Senate even. It really, you're raising some excellent points, I have to say, because Vindman, did you ever hear my phone call with Alexander Vindman?
No, I didn't even know you had a phone call.
I gotta find that for you. Vindman, why aren't these happening? I don't want to go off. I don't want to. Sorry, you were telling us about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. Just carry on with that for a minute, and then we'll talk more about Vindman. But I didn't get to see the podcast. I find both of these guys utterly ridiculous. But tell us, what was the upshot here?
Yeah, and that's that frame right there. I just saw clips of it, so I didn't really need context. All I saw was Kash Patel and Dan Bongino laughing and coking and joking, saying we did such a great job, and almost speaking in like this past tense, and like they are these, vindicated superheroes who are, crusading for justice. And I'm like, the only thing you guys have been crusading for is this cover-up, this alleged cover-up. And Pam Bondi is in that category as well. So it's just, it makes me lose a lot of faith in those institutions. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. It's very disheartening that, we thought we had the Avengers, and it turns out we actually had the Suicide Squad. So
the Legion of Doom or something.
The Legion of Doom. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It was almost like the Keystone Cops. I mean, So what's the reaction online been to, in my X feed, it's pretty negative toward Dan Bongino, but I don't know, it seems the X algorithm, they've been trying to tie it in with Grok so that it's giving you more stuff you'll be interested in. I mean, obviously from the standpoint of the business of X.com, they want you to remain engaged, but I feel like if I say Dan Bongino is a dope, all I get are comments about Dan Bongino being a dope. If I post AI cartoons, all I get are other people posting AI things. So I don't know, maybe there's a litany of people who have decided that Dan Bongino, I had Jack Cashel on the other day, and I was surprised that he said that he is totally down with Dan Bongino. He thinks that 9/11 happened the way they told us. I was like, Jack, hold the phone. Yeah. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I did. I saw that entire episode, and it was funny. He was on the side of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. He said I don't want to, misquote him, but I believe he said something to the effect of, I believe they've done a great job, but Pam Bondi has been awful. And I'm like, okay, well, don't you think they're all in the same boat here? I don't know. I'm like, my head's scrambled and all over the place. I'm thinking of theories just like anybody else. And I'm trying to be very objective about all of this. And it's hard. I want to get emotional. I want to be angry.
Have you seen Jack Cashel before very much, Patrick? Because I've known Jack for 10 years. He's done some great work. He wrote a book called Ron Brown's Body about basically the sabotage of that jet and the murder of Ron Brown. He's done a lot of great work on TWA 800. I mean, the strange thing about Jack is that very often, particularly with TWA 800, which I don't know if you know too many details about that plane disaster, but, he and I will agree on maybe like 95% of the stuff, and then I come to a different conclusion than he does, and he gets angry at me. So I don't know what's going on with Jack.
I didn't know his all of his research about Obama's book and Dreams of My Father and the connection to Bill Ayers, and I'm pretty sure because I believe he said something about Rush Limbaugh was like the only guy who platformed him or something. And I'm thinking back, and I'm like, that's probably where I heard all of this stuff is listening to Rush Limbaugh in the car with my grandfather in like 2007, 2008.
How
So
old were you listening to that?
oh shit, I was like 11. My grandfather, yeah, my grandfather had me listen to a steady diet of let's see, but first it was Rush, and then it would be Sean Hannity, and then it would be Mark Levin, and then it would be Art Bell or George Norrie. So
Wow.
I got the conservative politics pipeline, followed by the
UFO.
paranormal
Yeah.
aliens, UFOs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's great.
um,
You said your grandfather is still alive, right? We got to try to do an
yes,
episode with him. I can
yes,
picture in my
yeah.
mind a little 11-year-old Patrick sitting there listening to Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. And I actually, it was funny. During that phase, this might have started earlier too, because when I was in fifth grade and I started school really, really young, I think I was probably like 8 years old, 9 years old, but in fifth grade, we, oh, I was probably about eight. Anyways, we had the Bush and Kerry election of 2004. And I remember we had like this long-term substitute teacher, and she was like this staunch liberal who would just not keep politics out of the classroom. And I wrote a paper in fifth grade about how Nancy Pelosi is like the Antichrist or something, or the root of all evil. And and then the cops came, to my
What?
house, and they were like,
What?
in CPS, and they were like, "Hey, why is your son writing about Nancy Pelosi in
What?
fifth grade?" Yeah.
That's crazy.
Um, but I was, I wasn't thinking for myself then, but looking back, I wasn't too far off with that paper I wrote in the fifth grade. So, um, yeah, good times, good
That's
times.
amazing. Well, I mean, listen, people can keep up with your writing now on Substack. Check out all
Yes.
this stuff, and you do your grandfather proud on there. So, the other thing that I want to talk about, in just a few minutes when we get to the sponsor exclusive segment, you had this uh, bombshell of sorts that you pulled out of the Epstein files, where you're making all these connections to the Atlantic and Lorraine Powell jobs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's a well known leftist agitator. You also
Yep.
have this ongoing need to be constantly changing your X handle so people can
Yeah.
follow you there
Yeah.
at Reveron
Yeah.
X. It's all due to the trans leftists attacking you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give us an overview of what you've got
Oh
in
my
this
God.
mind map
Uh,
or whatever you've created here.
no, so actually, I didn't create this, Jason. This is something that Jeffrey Epstein was sending to his cohorts via email.
Hmm.
And it was him, Ghislaine Maxwell, and I think Reid Hoffman was CC'd on there. But it was, the usual suspects. And this was right after his first meeting with Steve Bannon in circa 2016, 2017. And this was citing all the connections that were good as of January 1st, 2015. So like it was almost like it was like a year in review for his relationships going into the new year 2016.
Wow.
And I believe it was February, but he had all this color coded and bold lines and dotted lines. And I wrote this little blurb that I mean, I thought was fascinating. And I'll make it quick because I know we got the sponsor exclusive. But there was this director on there named Darren Aronofsky,
Oh, yeah.
and I was like, where have I heard that name?
The
I know
wrestler.
that name. Yes, he did The Wrestler. Yes. But he did this movie, weirdest movie I've ever seen. I remember I was on deployment. We were in the South China Sea. I was on the Carl Vinson, and the media people on the boat, they played this movie called Mother. And Mother is just, how you spell mother, but with an exclamation point at the end. Stars Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence. And it is the weirdest movie I've ever seen. and he wrote and directed it. So he wrote this entire movie. This is where it gets weird. The movie has like this, it is just anxiety throughout the whole film. It is like you feel horror and anxiety, but it keeps increasing until about the last 30 minutes of the film. It is about this, virtuoso writer that Javier Bardem plays, and his wife is Jennifer Lawrence, and they're in this quiet ranch home in the middle of nowhere, and she's pregnant, and it is just very weird. The house is like bleeding, um, and then all of these strangers, almost like two by two by two, they start invading her home. They'll break stuff, they'll smoke cigarettes. So it's like all of the most blatant displays of disrespect to a pregnant mother in her own home, these people do. And the husband is like allowing it to happen. So he starts off with like having these two psychotic, like sycophants invade his home. They treat his wife like shit. And then it's more and more and more and more. So, anyways, spoiler alert, it crescendos when she has the child, and there's like thousands of people in her home at this point, and there's a scene where a helicopter crashes into the roof. All of these people are like ripping cops apart and SWAT teams, and like ripping pieces of the helicopter apart, and it is just like a full-on like third world post-apocalyptic riot in her home.
Crazy.
She has the baby, and all they get rid of all the cops, and then they start having this weird satanic like Luciferian ritual
Huh.
where they eat her baby like limb from limb.
What?
And she's, yes, and Darren Aronofsky was listed as a close friend with a close connection before 2016 to Jeffrey Epstein. He listed him as, for lack of a better term, a best friend, but he had the bold line and he had his name in black. So that signifies that he was a close friend and a close connection.
Wow. That's insane. I've never seen that movie. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't recommend it. It's a horrifying movie, and I just remember being on deployment, and I'm like, it's all grainy and like, a lot of fuzz, and sometimes it cuts out, and I just remember I was like, what the fuck is this movie?
why
I'm
are they
like,
showing you
what?
that? Is it that you
I'm
have
like,
Lord of the Rings or something?
I was mind blown watching that because I'm like, who wrote this? And then now, fast forward 8 years later, I
It
finally have an
is.
answer, and I realized that okay, all of these things about eating babies and trafficking and raping children and all this, well, he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So, it's just I'm like the connections never seem to end, and that he calls it his connection web. That's what Jeffrey Epstein calls it. And then you have, guys like Ian Carroll who are like, creating these databases and profiting off of this web and creating these connections. I'm like, okay, well, that's just profiteering because it's all right there, like that's all you really need. And then just do real world analysis and real journalism and research those people one by one by one, and don't rely on AI to make all these, connections for you while you profit off of it. But that's my opinion. So,
No, I mean, it's also interesting that he spells it the same way that George Webb spells his name. Ian
Whitney
Carroll
Webb.
first, Whitney Webb. Well, I don't know that much about Whitney Webb other than what I've seen on the internet, but George Webb I've had a lot of interaction with. And
Yeah.
obviously, people who watch this show know that I don't trust him at all. He and his brother
Yeah.
have been trying to terrorize me for the past 9.5 years. My father, who was also a Navy veteran, well into his 80s, has been the subject of their. We got an injunction against George Webb's brother for stalking violence and harassment in Florida. So this is not me making this up and having some
Yeah.
YouTube beef. These guys are stalking and harassing my family. And it's just, Ian Carroll first came at me with a question about a guy named Quinn Michaels, who had been out of my world for 6 or 7 years. It was just interesting that he was asking about that. And then Ian Carroll appeared at some event where he met up with George Webb, and they seemed to know each other. So I don't know what's going on there, but we've got a lot more to discuss, Patrick. People should stay with us. We're going to be right back on our sponsor exclusive segment. Join us on substack.com/@singlecompany. Single is spelled with an X. You can also get that on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or crowdsourcethetruth.com.